Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to CEO show. I'm your host, Murray Newlands. I'm delighted to be joined by Justin from Socialstack. Justin, please introduce yourself and your project.
Thank you for having me, Murray. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here. Yeah, my name is Justin Markell. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Socialstack. Pretty much, we are a Web3 community engagement platform that creates a pretty seamless way for brands, nonprofits, and creators to tokenize their community. And for people who might not know what that means, pretty much we help to issue what we're calling a social or community token, so social token or community token that can be utilized to incentivize certain type of behavior. And the token is actually used to incentivize that behavior. So if someone does something in your community and takes some kind of action, you receive a token. And the latter half of that process is once you receive that token, there's different ways, different processes of what you can do with that token. Most of the communities that we're working with are utilizing a function of our app that is like a shop or a storefront. So we call it a tokenized storefront, Web3 powered storefront. You use those tokens and you're able to redeem them for different type of physical or virtual goods.
So that's great. So give us an example of a customer project using this. Like what types of community?
Absolutely. So two things we're quite excited about, or a couple, right? Is we were just responsible for launching the world's first nonprofit as a social token, and as well as the first ever B Corp. So we, as you can probably tell from those, and I'll get into the specifics, our ethos is very much like good for the world type of business. We're a for-profit company that's definitely, I would say, more than doubled down on purpose and really wanting to create a swell of grassroots action that allows people to get into Web3 without having to invest their own money, which is typically the case with NFTs and with crypto investing. So all around this kind of era of inclusivity, and we're calling it impact to earn in that side. So to get into specific examples, the best one really so far for us has been working with a brand called Starboard, who's a surfing, paddleboard, and windsurfing company that's based currently out of Thailand. Their founder is Scandinavian and has been in the industry for quite a long time as an athlete himself. So they're using their token to incentivize ocean plastic and beach plastic removal by their community. And they just reached a pretty astronomical figure, 500,000 pounds that's been removed. This was, they've started this effort prior to working with us, but we've really helped them to accelerate the pace that they've been able to go about doing this. So that's been a really exciting one for us. Yeah, I'll start there.
And so what do those users, so these users, they collect, how exactly does this work from a user perspective, and what do they get out of it?
Exactly. So in terms of the user flow there, users, so that the company will kind of put out this prompt through their Web3 kind of portal. Hey, we have this initiative. Here's a way for you to earn tokens and access unique rewards for taking this action. People then, complete the action and show proof of it. So through our platform, at the moment, it's manual in terms of the kind of way that approvals happen. But an admin would look at in the back end of the platform to see who's gone about and submitted their work. They would approve it. Tokens would then go into their wallet, which we actually create a very easy pathway for people who don't have crypto knowledge to be able to access what we're doing. Our wallet actually automatically creates a blockchain wallet for you in the background that you can log in by email. So we're really focused on kind of making it seamless. Some people are kind of calling this Web 2.5 from that standpoint, but we are also very much like hard-nosed around actual decentralization. Our company, we're not yet a DAO, but we're moving in that direction, and are open source or on the way to being more open source, but we're operating on the open blockchain. So we're not a proprietary platform where, we definitely have that kind of ethos, but we're operating with this kind of usability principle in mind. So to answer your question, once you get those tokens, you then have access to redeem them for whatever is available in the storefront. So currently right now, I know that there's been t-shirts that they've put in their storefront. I know that they've planted mangrove trees on behalf of people who have earned tokens. So what's quite interesting in this example is you create impact, they'll create more impact on your behalf if you are creating impact. So that for us is like, that's a really great partnership by way of creating impact. You know, I think bigger societal questions, right? Of like, well, how does that make you money, right? Like you have to survive as a company. Are you just doing this because you're already having a lot of success as a company? Are you doing it to build brand values, etc.? So that's something that I think, you know, we're still in the very early chapters of social tokens, how these get used. Starboard's actually the biggest brand that we're aware of, not just working with us, but overarchingly that has their own social token. So it is very, very early. So this is if any brand leaders are watching, you're welcome to reach out to us to learn more about how we're going about this. And we have thought through this process about how to ensure that what we're doing is compliant, and that they're, you know, from a risk mitigation standpoint, that easy speak, right? That like this is something that is straightforward to do, because when people think crypto, they think Web3. A lot of people associate it with volatile assets and risk, and it doesn't need to be like that. It can be more like of a rewards based, akin to social media and social experiences, you know, in the internet. And there's one thing I'd like to add to that is that, you know, with metaverses becoming a hot topic and becoming far more widespread over the last year, the ways to capture value for a consumer through activity in the metaverse is still through tokens. So it's largely through what will be NFTs, or will be through something more like a social token or social currency, where you can use those tokens that you earn to redeem them for something else, or potentially hold on to those tokens if there's a reason that you might want to do that, which I'm happy to get more into if you'd like me to.
And then so that's one type of project. That's the social good project. Is it only social good projects? Is it only brands? Is it also influencers? I could see this working in music. What are the other kind of scenarios that this is working in?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely not only social impact. We have a skew to want to support people who really, you know, have that kind of purpose in the world. But there are examples of companies we're working with who are not as focused there. I mean, someone who a project I can share about that kind of like straddles the lines of both. He's far more of a creator than I would say to be a social entrepreneur, but the two can go hand in hand. As I feel like the lines have continued to blur, right? Even if you look at like celebrity culture and you look out there, a lot of these celebrities have a lot of different hats, right? They're on the board of nonprofits, right? They're ambassadors, they're doing all kinds of stuff, which I think is really beautiful about like where we've come. You don't have to box yourself in. But the example I'll share is an artist named Osinache, who's actually our creative in residence. He's the foremost NFT creator in Africa by revenue.
Wow.
And we helped him in this past fall. It was actually my first or second week with the company, to create a social token experience. He at Christie's, the auction house in London. So he was participating in an auction. Some of his pieces were being auctioned. And what we did was we were able, you know, when you go to like a museum and there's like a little banner next to the piece of art, and it has like, so that kind of thing. But they allowed us to add a QR code, which pretty much was like a, you know, crossover to the physical world, right? With all of this kind of speak of, you know, metaverse and all of this kind of Web3 stuff, you know, so crossing that over where people who are there can get tokens for accessing his version of Socialstack. We're calling them clubs. So his Socialstack club. And that said, there's different things that he's been rolling out over time. He's still early on with like figuring out exactly how he wants to use it. But one thing that he is doing is providing mentoring sessions to give back. So people who earn his tokens and support him will be able to access mentoring sessions with him, which is really cool. And he's talked about, you know, being able to utilize his token to, like, for example, unlock NFTs that are only available to people who have earned his token, which is something that's very interesting from like a creator or fan perspective of, if you have gated access to to different things where people can't buy their way in. And it really encourages authenticity and an even playing field for people to participate and do certain things that might enable different kind of privileges and so forth.
That's fantastic. What do you see? Where do you see as some other communities, other projects that are doing really well in the space?
In the Web3 space?
Yes, in the Web3 space, but also potentially like just in the changing in Web3 and changing the world, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds good. Let me think of what comes to mind. I mean, I guess I'll start with changing the world, because I guess maybe it's what I care about more, because Web3, just like as anything, it's a medium, right? Just like what you have in the background there. So yeah, I mean, these guys who have given me quite a lot of inspiration throughout the last couple of years, they have a company called Task Force. So Yossi Sargent and Simon Isaacs, they've pretty much created like a grassroots movement laboratory, if you will, where they're powering movements with some of the biggest brands and nonprofits and creators in the world. So they help to spearhead Mental Health Action Day, which is an initiative that MTV is the primary kind of backer and co-creator of, which is actually this Thursday. It's currently Mental Health Awareness Month. So they launched this last year, and the White House already is officially supporting it, and which is very, very beautiful. So so they've been a constant source of inspiration to kind of watch what they've done. They did a really unique project recently around GIFs and creating GIFs with artists. So like when you go on Instagram, you see these various filters of like, get out the vote and things that you can kind of add on and make fun. They've found like a very clever way of making some of these important moments like more fun and accessible, which I think is incredibly important, because people don't want to necessarily always like have a dinner, like a cocktail conversation about some of these doom and gloom type of topics. So that's one. I mean, and then I guess I'm thinking of what comes to mind on the Web3 side that is speaking to me right now. I mean, something that is, let me take a second to think about this one. If we can I come back to it a little bit in a little bit? I want to put some thought into what is really like salient for me on this front right now.
I'll also give you one, but BankDAO is an amazing project where they're creating a bank in a DAO, because banks and financial institutions make a lot of money, and they're using that to provide financial education and financial literacy and financial inclusion for underbanked and underserved, and those also who maybe have banking but actually don't get a lot out of it, where they're getting 0% effectively on their savings, and the bank makes whatever percentage it is. So there are a lot of projects, I think, that way in the Web3 space that are really, really helping to change things.
I mean, I can say generally speaking too, like I pay attention to what's happening in NFT land. I can't I definitely pay plenty of attention. I can't say that there's been a project like that I've seen like over the last month or something that's like really, really stood out to me of like loving the way that I mean, there's a lot of good things out there. I'm just, as with anyone, I think people are looking for what are new ways that this might happen. So I'll give you one example. Is I know the creator of Entourage. They have a new show that's coming out where they're allowing fans to pretty much help who own their NFTs to dictate like how the show ends, type of thing. I think that's really cool. I was also just going to say that, like, generally speaking, NFTs growing as a vehicle is something that is obviously very positive for creators. I've seen some messages and so forth from like social posts from creators, specifically like artists and musicians, who have said like they've made as much money as they would like touring, like from NFTs, which is incredible, because it's oftentimes capturing value of work that they've already created or something that they would have to spend, lots of time on the road, away from their families, like things like that. And also, touring there's been a big damper on touring during the pandemic. I was speaking to my brother about like a pretty like decent sized act that he is friendly with, who, their revenue was like, it was very unexpected, right? For a lot of people. And if that's your core business, touring, it's been a rude awakening, right? Of like diversifying and figure out other channels that also don't feel, that feel organic to like you, right? Not forcing people to buy something that doesn't feel right, which is, I think that's why it's so important with people entering NFTs to like really think about what they're doing before hopping in. We talk about as a team, like we've got some feedback back from some artists in this, like an artist manager in the space who was really like, there's two things that people need to be careful about here. One being cash grabs, and two, the connotations around the environment and what are you actually doing to counter that. So yeah, it deserves some thought, right? If we're trying to move forward, we have to be thoughtful about what we're putting out into the world and how we're doing it. And people may sense if you're not, if you may be not doing it for the right reasons or in a way that really resonates with them. So yeah.
Absolutely. If people want to, talking about resonating with people, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, my inbox is great. Justin at socialstack.co. It's just the word social and the word stack.co. I'm also at Markell Soup, Markell Soup, on both Instagram and Twitter. And I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there too.
Justin, thank you very much for being on the show. I'm your host, Murray Newlands. You've been watching the How to CEO show. I'll see you next time.